Verbal reasoning can be one of the hardest subsets to perform well in, so today I'm going to be giving my advice to help you achieve a score above 800. Hey guys, my name is Daniel Gibbon and I just graduated with an ATAR of 99.90 and a UCAT of 3160. And today I'm going to be trying to help you achieve even better. I'm going to be giving an overview of the verbal reasoning subset and then also give my advice on how to prepare and how to answer verbal reasoning questions. Verbal reasoning assesses your ability to quickly read and comprehend a worded passage and then apply that information to answer questions. You are given 11 worded passages, each ranging from 200 to 300 words, with 4 questions for each passage, giving a total of 44 questions. You are given 21 minutes to complete the entire subset, meaning that you are given just under 2 minutes to read a passage and answer 4 questions about it. This severe time limit is what makes this subset so hard. There are 2 main question types. The first, easier and less common question type, comprising around 4 out of 11 sets, is one where you're given a statement and have to conclude whether it is true, false, or can't tell, with it being true if it is directly supported by the passage or strongly inferred, and whereas false if it is directly contradicted by the passage. Finally, with it being can't tell if you cannot conclude if it is true or false. Reading comprehension is the second harder and more common question type, comprising around 7 of the 11 sets. In this question type, you're given 4 worded answer options. These answers can all refer to a single topic within the passage, or they can refer to multiple different topics. So now I've given an overview of the verbal reasoning subset, I'm going to show you the 4-step process into how to solve any question. The first step is to read the actual premise. Some people say that you should just read the questions and then scan for keywords in the questions in the premise to save time actually reading. However, I completely disagree with this approach because of its 3 major pitfalls. Firstly, the question doesn't always use the same keywords as in the premise, which can make it very hard or even impossible to find the information you're looking for. Secondly, you would have to do this for 4 separate questions, and each one of these questions can address multiple different topics. This means you're going to have to scan through the premise a substantial amount of times, which can cause it to take almost as much or even more time than just reading the premise in the first place. And the third pitfall is that you don't actually get the full story when you just scan for keywords, which can lead to inaccurate answers. So I believe that in the long run, reading the entire passage is the most effective and accurate way to answer verbal reasoning questions. Because even though at first it may take a while, after you're able to build up your skills and your proficiency in reading, you'll be able to answer the questions in time with very high accuracy. However, the way you actually read the sentence matters as well, as you have to carefully interpret every single sentence, identifying the key subject of that sentence and all of the relevant information. You also have to focus on the key functional words within the sentence, with the nouns, the adjectives, the prepositions, and the adverbs, as these are the kind of words they actually use in the questions, and these are the words that actually define the meaning of the sentence and can help you correctly interpret the sentence. Another tip is to just take note of where and what a list or date is about within a passage, rather than trying to memorize it. As trying to memorize these lists of things or the dates of when things happened can overload your memory and can negatively affect your interpretation of the rest of the passage. But rather, you should just remember where in the passage those lists or dates are and exactly what they're referring to, so if you're given a question on them, you can just go back to the passage. The second step is to read the actual question. However, when you're reading this question, just like the passage, you have to be incredibly careful in how you're interpreting it to ensure that you're interpreting it correctly. Because if you misinterpret a question, you practically just wasted 30 seconds of your time. The next step is to read the actual answer options, and this is particularly relevant for the reading comprehension question type, as you have to ensure that you're interpreting all of the information in each of the answer options. As for something to be true, all of the information needs to be true within that statement. But for something to be false, only one small part of the answer has to be incorrect. And you also have to take account for the degree of certainty presented in the answer option, looking out for words like only or must, which can be really important in defining whether something is true or if you cannot tell. Finally, you must choose the most supported answer. And to do this, you need to be looking back on the passage mentally and trying to think about what is relevant to the question and the answers provided, and trying to see which one is supported and which one is not, and use that information to answer the question correctly. So that's the 4-step process that I would recommend using for answering verbal reasoning questions. However, just using this process isn't going to instantly make you perfect at answering all the questions and being able to do them in time. But instead, it's a process that you need to develop and improve upon. So now I'm going to be giving you my advice for how you can prepare for verbal reasoning. One activity that can really help you along your progress in verbal reasoning is to actually make a list of all the key functional words within all the passages that you read. As this will be a list of all the verbs, adverbs, prepositions, and adjectives that you come across when reading verbal reasoning passages. As by making a list of all of the key functional words, their corresponding function, and an example of how they're used, you'll be able to correctly interpret exactly what a key functional word means when you're reading it, increasing your interpretation ability and also your speed of reading. This is an example glossary which I created in my verbal reasoning preparation. Another tip that I would strongly recommend for verbal reasoning is that you only read the passage once, as you just don't have time to reread any information in the passage. And if you come across a question where you don't remember the information in the passage, then you have made a fatal mistake in your interpretation. However, getting to this step where you can accurately interpret the entire passage and remember it can be a difficult process. So now I'm going to present a almost step-by-step plan on how you can get to a point in your preparation where you can quickly read through a passage and remember all the relevant information so that you can have high accuracy and high speed. The first step is to start with untimed practice, in which you read through the passage once and then create a sort of cheat sheet in where you summarize the exact subjects within the passage and the corresponding information about those subjects, focusing on the key functional words that we talked about earlier. And then you can use this cheat sheet to answer the questions. However, you can never go back to the actual premise, and you have to ensure that you include all of the relevant information within the cheat sheet. And once you're consistently getting 100% with all the questions using your cheat sheet without rereading the passage, you can then slowly start to reduce the amount of information that you keep on that cheat sheet. However, you need to ensure that you maintain 100% accuracy throughout this whole process. And then finally, once you continuously decrease the amount of information you keep on your cheat sheet, you'll get to a point where you no longer even need to write anything down, and you can just read the passage once and answer all the questions. Once you're at this point and you've retained 100% accuracy, you can then start to increase your speed. When increasing your speed, you need to do it very slowly and ensure that you maintain a 90+ percentile accuracy. And then after a while, after continuously increasing your speed whilst maintaining your accuracy, you'll finally get to a point where you're able to complete all the questions under the time limit whilst retaining a 90+% accuracy. At this point, you can then start doing full subset tests and ensuring that all the skills have carried on and that you have no weaknesses within how you answer the questions. Although this process may take a very long time and may be quite hard at some steps, it is one of the most efficient ways that you can develop your verbal reasoning skills to be able to achieve that perfect score. That's all the tips that I have for verbal reasoning today. If you found the video useful, please leave a like, and if you like content about UCAT and ATAR, please subscribe. I have a whole nother UCAT playlist which you might find useful, and also have an ATAR reaction video if you're interested. I'll be releasing more UCAT videos about each of the individual subsets, and if you have any video requests, please leave them in the comments below.